Well, welcome to this week's episode of West Talk. My name is Kevin Young, and I am here in place for Dustin Parsons this week. We've got a great lineup of guests for you today, starting with Risha from the electoral office for the Halibu election that's coming up. And a little later on, we'll be talking to Matt Smith from What's the Dirt, a YouTube channel that's making waves. Let's go to Risha first. Risha, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me today.
So your position, you're the electoral officer, which is an independent group hired by the Halibu to help conduct the election this year. Tell me a bit about that and a bit about your role.
Yep, so I'm an individual consultant. I've been hired for the position of electoral officer for the Halibu Mi'kmaq First Nation Band, and my role is to ensure that the custom election rules and code for Halibu Mi'kmaq First Nation are followed and processes are in place.
Right, and of course we are now in election time, or at least campaign time.
Yeah.
How many voters are we looking at that generally tend to get out and vote for, or register to vote for that?
Right now there's approximately 23,000 eligible voters of Halibu First Nation that have the opportunity and ability to get out and vote in this year's election.
23,000?
Yeah.
Wow, that's huge. And so, I mean, when we say 23,000, we know that the Halibu office is located in Brook, but there's so much more that the Halibu covers. What are we looking at region-wise? Like, where's the 23,000 people originally located?
That's right. So the 23,000 people are dispersed across western and central regions. The Halibu electoral wards for the western region would encapsulate Benoit's Cove, Corner Brook, Flat Bay, Port-au-Port, Stephenville, and St. George's. So there's 6 electoral wards in that region. And then the central region would encapsulate Exploits, Gander Bay, and Glenwood.
Wow. So quite a bit of area coverage and quite a bit of population.
Right. And those electoral wards, they would also include in and around communities. So there's approximately 180 in and around communities that make up all of those electoral wards.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So the Halibu is big. We've got an election coming up. We've got, campaigning on the go right now. There may be some people watching right now that are members of the Halibu that might not know how to get in touch with anyone. To talk about the election. Maybe they want to vote for the first time or don't even know if they're registered. What can they do to find out this information?
Yeah. So best thing right now, we're getting really close to the election window, which is opening October 18th and running till October 25th. So the voting window during that time and beforehand on October 16th, we'll have a helpline open. So the helpline will be your main access point that you can call in with questions and assistance, ask, where was my voter package sent? Did it get sent to me by the email that I had registered on my band office's GNU membership profile? Maybe you don't have access to that email anymore. Did it go to my postage address? Is it my current postage address? Or was that somewhere I lived 2 years ago and I haven't updated yet? And there is still some membership who have no information within the band office's GNU membership profile at all. And not to worry, because the helpline will assist you in identifying your information and getting you your voter's PIN that you will be required to access the electronic voting system to vote.
So what's the number for the helpline?
That is 1-888-281-8683.
So 1-888-281-8683 is the number to call.
Absolutely. So that will open at 9 a.m. on October 16th. That'll run daily from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. until October 24th. And then on the very last day of the voting window, or what we also call Election Day on October 25th, it'll run from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay. So they're open pretty well, quite a lot to help answer any questions.
That's right.
You just mentioned the window, the voting window, and Election Day being the 25th. Now, a lot of people are going to think that the 25th is Election Day and that's it. But tell me a bit about what this voting window means and how can people vote once registered?
Absolutely. So since the referendum vote in 2018 by Halibu First Nation membership to move to the electronic voting system in 2021, this allowed an expansion of opportunity for members to vote at a 24-hour accessible platform. So on October 18th at 8 a.m. when the voting opens, members will be able to access the electronic voting system by telephone and or through internet web access. Again, 24 hours to cast their ballot, and then that will close at 8 p.m. on October 25th, which is what we call the Election Day or the last day of the voting window.
Okay, and of course people who are going to be voting certainly want to have the knowledge of who their candidates are, where can they find a list of candidates and some information about them?
Yeah, so all of the Election Hub information or election information is on the Election Hub, which is at hollybo.ca. And right at the very front of that website, when you open it, there's a yellow box that redirects you to the Election Hub. So the list of candidates are there, and there is reflective social media platforms for each one listed. And you can also, there's been some things within communities and around electoral boards where candidates have been gathering or announcing their, arrival to let people know about their platform.
So besides the helpline, is the website a good resource for voters to find out more information about this? Because of course, while the helpline might help them register, might help them, understand how the voting process works, obviously people want to vote based on, some kind of education. You want to be educated voters. So the website sounds like a great place to go to see the list of candidates, but also the social media stuff as well. Any other ways that they can find out a bit more about, the issues that are, involving the members of the Hullabaloo and of course the candidates and what their ideas are?
Yep, so other than the hollybo.ca website, there's social platforms on Facebook under Hullabaloo First Nation or through Twitter or X now. They're great options at all the Hullabaloo First Nation band offices across the western and central regions. There will be information available at those offices if you run in there.
Right, so some people watching might not know or realize, as we mentioned at the top, how much region is covered, how many people are, eligible to vote, but also how many candidates there are given the region. So can you tell me a little bit about the structure of what we're looking at? Obviously, we're looking at chief, vice chief, but what other kind of things do you think that people will be voting for, other positions?
Yes, so we have, again, chief, western vice chief, and central vice chief, and then we have a counselor for each ward. So this year for 2024, we've seen 20 nominations come forward for candidacy. We've seen 2 withdrawals of candidates for the position of western vice chief already. There's still 2 in the running. And for the western region, we have 1 ballot to cast for Port-au-Port for their ward councillor. The St. George's council is going to go into by-election, that'll be predetermined. That'll be announced at a later date, that by-election for St. George's ward councillor. And then all other councillors were acclaimed for Western Region.
Wow.
For Central Region, we've seen Gander Bay acclaimed, and then Exploits and Glenwood will go into an election.
Wow, so acclaim meaning, of course, there was no opposition to
That's
run against
correct.
them.
Yeah.
What kind of, outreach, do you get from members in the community, the voters, when it comes to wanting to be engaged or involved in Hullabaloo elections?
Yeah, so they want to know more about the candidates, and they're, connecting on social media platforms has been mostly the request that's come in to my desk. But again, wanting to know what's happening out in communities, like where are the candidates gathering in communities to get their platforms out there. And that is at the discretion of the candidates. This is not something that is within the electoral code for the electoral officer to headway, nor is it the responsibility of the organization of Hullabaloo First Nation itself to host these candidates in any capacity. That is up to the candidates and surrounding communities and previous councillors and electoral wards to get that out there and engage the membership.
Right, and you mentioned, of course, the voting day happening. You mentioned that there's, the online aspect of voting. There's going to be some ballots going to be mailed out, kind of a thing. In-person voting is still happening, correct?
No.
No, not at all.
There is no in-person ballots to be cast. Okay. Everything is electronic. And again, so I always say first, you can access electronic voting by telephone, because there was definitely a lot of fear that came into play in the 2021 election when the electronic system came in, that they wouldn't be able to vote because they didn't have a cell phone. But you don't need a cell phone. You just need a telephone. So if you have a phone at home on your wall, that's still valid. And same thing with internet web access. A lot of people have accesses to the internet, and they can alternatively vote that way if they don't want to use the telephone voting system.
Yeah, so they can vote online, and they can vote by calling. Now, the number they're calling, is it the same one, the voters helpline?
No,
or-
so voter packages will be provided, as we previously spoke about. Voter packages will begin to arrive on October 16th through 17th, 18th by email. And of course, always check your junk mail just in case it don't go to your regular inbox. And then postage mail will also arrive throughout October 16th through to October 24th, essentially. So if you're unsure of where that voter package has gone for you, again, call the helpline and they'll be able to give you some direction. And they'll be able to confirm, actually, we didn't have any information for you at all. So let's go through the process of getting you your voter PIN so you can move forward in the voting process.
So if someone's watching and they are a member of the Halibu and they're wondering, should they even call to find out if they're eligible? What kind of criteria are you looking at? Because of course, Halibu membership ranges from ages and demographics and so on. What are the qualifications for being a member and a registered voter for Halibu? Just in case they're looking at it, they're saying, I didn't get an email, nothing in the mail. How do I even know if I'm eligible?
Yep, so your eligibility would mean that you would be of the age of 18 on or before October 25th, which is, again, the election day, the last day of the voting window. And then you just require to be a member of Halibu First Nation and have a band, which would include your band registration number.
Awesome, awesome. So again, Risha, I want to thank you for joining me for this conversation. And for those of you who are members of the Halibu who fit that qualification criteria, don't forget to call 1-888-281-8683 just to make sure that you're registered to vote and that you know that your information is up to date, be it email address, be it postal address, and so on. That's 1-888-281-8683. Now we're going to head over to a break. When we come back, I'm going to be chatting with Matt Smith from What's the Dirt. You're not going to want to miss that. We'll be right back.
Come to where the land and the spirits are intertwined. Discover a whole new way to see this place. Feel the earth under your feet as you walk the path of our ancestors. Immerse yourself in our traditions. Ours is a culture alive with music, dance, art, nature, and adventure. It's in the air, the water, the sound of the wind in the trees. It's in the stories of our elders and the faces of our children, those with a shared history yet to discover. It's knowing that everything that casts a shadow has a spirit. Everything is alive. See what we see. Experience Halibu.
All right, so I've got a really cool guest with me here today that we're going to talk to. He is a Newfoundlander who has made waves in YouTube and in the hip-hop world. He has a YouTube channel called What's the Dirt. His name is Matt Smith, and he joins me today. Matt, how you doing, bud?
Good, man. Thanks for having me, bro. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's a
Appreciate
pleasure. Yeah. So Matt, I mean, you know, as a YouTuber, you're also kind of an entrepreneur, and I think that's always so cool. Entrepreneurship is great. It's, you know, a good way to feel in control of your life, of your future, and so on. Tell me a bit about what it's like being, you know, that kind of a person, an entrepreneur, kind of in control of your life that way.
Well, first off, talking about entrepreneurship, I've tried a million things over the years to make something cut through. Had some good ideas and had some terrible ideas, right? So it's almost like throwing a dart. Like I always felt like one of these things eventually got to hit. And I feel like I finally got it. But when it comes to running your own business, is great. I mean, because I can come into the studio whenever I want. Like it's a one-man show. Now I did hire my girl, so my girl recently quit her job. So now she's got a studio and she's helping. My little brother, I got him in the mix now, so he's helping too. So not only is it great for me, but it's becoming great for the people around me. And at the end of the day, the best thing is just not having anyone above you to tell you really what to do. You kind of you run the ship, right? So that's what I like about it.
Yeah, and that's obviously, I mean, that's kind of like the dream for a lot of people, especially young people. So any young people that are watching this interview, they know YouTube, they know the world of social media, they know the world of influencers, and I'm sure that if anyone's young watching right now that are into hip hop at all, they know exactly who you are. Because you've kind of become, and I know we've had this discussion before, and you shrug it off a bit, but honestly, you've kind of become the go-to authority for I guess at the very least, beef within the hip hop culture, especially the big names, right? We've talked about J. Cole, we've talked about Kendrick Lamar and Drake and so on. You didn't start off YouTube with that in mind. Tell me a bit about your journey starting off and what led you to getting to this point and becoming, as I said, kind of the authority in this world.
In the beginning, like I said before, about all these businesses I've tried where I was throwing a dart and seeing what would stick, with YouTube, it was no different at all. I was basically doing all types of random documentaries and random things, and like a lot of them couldn't even crack 1,000 views. And when I did something in the beef category, that was one of my best videos at the time. It got like 20,000 views or something, and that just kind of made a light bulb go off where I said, "Okay, I think there's something here." I love talking about beef. I love breaking down lyrics. I love this. So I continue with that format, and then, like you said, I the channel has become at the point now where it's like the beef channel, which is not really what I want long term, because I do want to prove to people that I can do other things outside of this, this beef stuff, right? I being able to research and do what I do, I feel like that translates to so many other topics. And once you're able to do that, I feel like the sky's the limit for what you can really do, right?
Right. And so what I'll say is, I think the beef side is just coming with the music that you're covering and the culture that exists within the music. Because what I love most about your YouTube channels, and anybody who's watching who wants to check out these channels, your videos, what I love most is you take a look at the music and you break it down and analyze it in a way like I don't think I've ever seen before, and you've inspired a whole generation of young people, my son included, to do that as well. So my son will hear a song and he'll be sitting down himself trying to break it out, break into before he watches any of your videos if you do cover the song. He does the same thing when he writes his own music, right? So he'll write music and he'll try to find ways to do that. So you've kind of done that. You've done that great work and, and inspiring, like I said, a whole generation as well, Matt. What does it feel like to hear that? I mean, obviously, this kind of happened pretty quick, by the way. Let's just go back before you even answer that question. How long did it take for you to go from starting your YouTube channel to getting to where you are now? And what does it feel to hear what I just mentioned?
So I started the channel. My channel's birthday was like it turned 2 years old like a couple weeks ago, right? So to get to where I'm at now, it took 2 years. But to be honest with you, the first year was just the building process, and within a year, by the time I was a year into this, I had around 100,000 subscribers, which is pretty rare for
Insane.
YouTube, right? So that obviously feels great. I'm almost at 400K now. But on the topic of like inspiring people to dive into lyrics. Like that's what hip hop's always been about. It's about lyricism, right? And in this new era we're in, unfortunately, lyricism is not taking a precedence. Like it's more of a production driven game where like a heavy beat is really what drives the game, right? It's like a producer's game. People are really just listening to the beat. So to get people back to focusing on lyrics and all these people now are dissecting lyrics and they're interested again and they're diving in, especially the younger kids,
Hmm.
because that's the people that we need to inspire if we want hip hop and the core values of hip hop to continue on. We need to reach the younger people because they move the needle, right? So to hear
Yeah.
that your son and people like that are actually becoming interested in lyrics in a land of we're not getting a lot of that is definitely dope. Definitely dope.
Yeah. So, you mentioned, of course, a lot there in terms of producers and what they like in the music. But I want to ask you, so you've gone on this journey and you've covered some pretty big names. What has it been like for you getting into this world? And who has reached out to you? Like, you've made some pretty interesting connections. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of people reach out, like I've like a lot of NFL players, NBA players. I've had a lot of producers, rappers, different things like that. It was just 2 days ago. I was on a call with Boy Wonder. He's a generational producer who's probably the best producer in the world for this era. To be honest with you, he's been with Drake from the very beginning. He's very, very close with Drake, but he's produced for Beyonce, Eminem. You know that the song "Afraid" by Eminem. He did that. He did work by Rihanna. If you just look up Boy Wonder's discography of what he's done as far as hits, it's insane what he's done. And once you see which songs he's worked on and made beats for, talking to people like that and getting feedback where they're saying, "Yo, you're the best in the game. Like like you're killing it. You're keep going." Classified hit me up the other day. If we're talking about East Coast hip hop, I don't think anyone's ever done it as big as he has, or as far as radio plays and being mainstream. Um, Mercules, people like that, lots of people from Canada. And it's always amazing to get feedback from these people because first off, I'm a fan of them. I was on a call with academics for about 2 hours the other day. Joe Budden called me a week ago. So talking with all these guys is crazy because I'm fans of them first and foremost, right? And as a white dude from Canada, it just feels good to get embraced by the culture like that
Yeah.
and from people like that, right?
Yeah, and I just want to talk a bit about the people who are going to be watching as well, because a lot of people do try to get into YouTube and make things happen. And I like how you started off by talking about just kind of throwing darts at a board and seeing what hits. And I've learned myself that when you're going on a journey like that and you are throwing those dartboards, sometimes something will hit and you'll go, oh, I got to do more of that, and it'll help grow. And you mentioned that, the music, the beef got you growing. But some people might get into this attitude where, they throw the dart, they hit something great, but they go, I don't want to keep doing that. And so they don't follow that trend. And then all of a sudden they got this one great video that got a lot of views and then back to nothing. Um, do you think it's wise to do that, to follow what you want to do a bit more if you're if you're looking for success in YouTube? Or do you think that, yeah, once you've hit that niche, stick with it for a bit, see where it goes, and then diversify?
Yeah. Yeah, I think like finding a niche early on is important because that could really, really grow. And then like I feel like now I'm at the point in my channel where I do feel like if I do something outside of beef because of the size of the channel and the fact that I have fans who are actually a fan of me and not just the beef part, like I've established a connection with my audience. I feel like now I can do these other topics that are outside the niche and they'll watch it, right? But early on, like most YouTube, like extraordinary, like the people who like run YouTube channels about YouTube and being successful on YouTube, most of them say to find a niche, right?
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, like in my case, the niche I had was beef, but that's something I was passionate about. So I didn't have any issues continuing with that theme because I like that stuff. So I could understand if someone had a video on some one-off thing and it popped off and they said, "Oh, I don't want to keep doing that. Like I got other stuff I want to do." I could understand them taking that path, right? At the end of the day, I feel like it's just you got to make videos that you love to make, right? You got to
Right.
work on projects that you enjoy,
Yeah, no,
right?
absolutely. And you've done, a great job of doing that, and a great job of covering a lot of that. Now, you've done some pretty big songs, some pretty big, beef songs between artists. And of course, we've talked a bit about that in the past, you and I, about some of those videos and what it's been like and how it's climbed your channel. But I'm noticing now, I'm seeing a lot of people asking for something very specific from you. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What do you think? Are you gonna give the people what they want? Is it in the works? What's coming up
Um,
next for What's the Dirt?
yeah, yeah. So right now, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about finishing the beef that I started, right? So I've done
Yes.
all the records for Drake and Kendrick up to Family Matters, which means there's really 3 records left to cover. Meet the
Hmm.
Grams, Not Like Us, and The Heart Part 6. The beef's done. This was a mission I set out to do from the very beginning, so I am going to do it. I am going to finish it. But because I've been working on this beef in particular for like half a year now, I'm taking a step back and doing a couple other videos first. Then I'm going to return to it. So
Gotcha.
100%, I'm going to be finishing it. I'm not telling people I'm doing that, by the way. I'll do it here. I'll say it here.
Our
But
secret.
my intent is just, yeah, my intent is to surprise people with the Meet the Grams out of
Yeah.
nowhere
Awesome.
when they think that it's never coming, right? And I'm just
Awesome.
gonna drop it and surprise people. So
I'm looking
that's the
forward to
goal.
that, Matt. I'm looking forward to more of your content. Matt, I want to thank you so much for joining me for this chat, for talking a bit about your YouTube channel, entrepreneurship, what it's been like for you, and of course, continuing on what you do. So thanks, Matt, for joining me.
Hey, you're a friend at this point, man. So whenever you want,
Awesome, buddy.
appreciate you.
All right, guys,
Yeah.
that's Matt from What's the Dirt. You got to check him out on YouTube, What's the Dirt, and check out his videos and enjoy that content. It's good stuff. So again, thanks to Matt for that interview. And that's it for this week's West Talk. I want to thank my guests, Risha from the Electoral Office, hired to help the Hullabaloo this year in the election that's happening. And of course, my guest, Matt Smith from What's the Dirt, making waves over there on YouTube. Until next week, bye for now.